Hey, welcome to this video on revenue predictability. We never really seem to know where our next placement is coming from. And when I was new in the business, I would look and I go, this one is going to happen. She loves the hiring manager loves her, loves the environment, loves everything about the opportunity. And, I'm sure if you've done this well, you know what I'm about to say. Those deals seem to blow up a lot. And it's one of the things I really found held us back and held me back individually, because we were always holding ourselves accountable for the one thing in this business, if you think about it, that we can't control. We can't control an offer and acceptance. We can influence an offer and acceptance. We can't control an offer and acceptance. And then we judge ourselves as successful by whether or not we put that together, even though it's outside of our control. This is one of the reasons why people get stuck, why they get frustrated, because there's no true way to predict income. And they kind of fall into a rhythm and a pace, and it usually ends up billing at a certain level, of which for many people, it's a level they're not happy with, or even if they're happy with, it's a level they find hard to break out of. Placements are an emotional nightmare. The wedding of two emotional creatures that have their own fears, insecurities, beliefs, and beliefs about change. So how do we turn that around? The good news is that placements are completely predictable. Not a placement, but revenue is probably the better way to put it. Revenue is completely predictable over time. I'll share with you on the next few steps how that makes it happen. And probably the best way is a conversation I had with a client a few months ago, and he had blanked for over 3 months. No placements, no billings for over 3 months. But he arranged an average of 10 interviews a month. So he was on a run rate of 120 interviews a year. He was frustrating, telling me that he had lost faith, in our recruiter GPS system. Because we had promised him, and this is what the promise we make to all our clients is, if you hit the targets that we outlined for you, you'll hit your revenue goal 100% of the time. And it wasn't happening in this 90-day period. And he lost faith with us, because that would put him on track to be like $375,000 in revenue for the year as a solo operator. And he had arranged 35 interviews since his last placement. And he said, Mike, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say I'm due. And you're probably going to say I'm due for 5 or 6 placements. And I said, that's exactly what I'm going to say. And I'll tell you what happened in a minute. But let me walk you through the process that he did, and then I'll share the result. Because we got Jim straight away in our coaching relationship tracking first-time interviews. He also tracked a number of other key activities, which is why he consistently got 5 interviews and 2 job orders every 2 weeks. So step 1 is track your first-time interviews. Step 2 is know how many first-time interviews it takes to make one placement. I don't care if it's phone, face-to-face, in person. I can't imagine there's, most things have gone to phone or Zoom for a first meeting. If you don't know what that number is, you can use 8. We're seeing 8 works in a variety of economies, and really 8, that number didn't shift in the pandemic, during the worst of the pandemic either. That ratio did not change. Step 3 is do the math. Do the math. So let's say you're a solo operator, or you're a recruiter, or you have an office and you want to coach someone to $300,000 in billings. And let's just assume, for argument's sake, it's an average fee of $25,000. That means if you make 12 placements, 12 times 25,000 is $300,000. If your interview ratio is 8-to-1, to make 12 placements, you need 96 first-time interviews over the course of a year. 12 placements times 8 interviews equals 96 total interviews, or about 2 a week, a little less than 2 a week. So do 2 interviews a week, plain and simple. You're going to bill $300,000 if those other numbers are true. Period. It's that simple. I've never seen it not happen. Back to Jim. So he told me I promised him 5 to 6 placements at 35 interviews. Again, his ratio was 6-to-1, not 8-to-1. So just to fill that in. And yes and no, I didn't promise him that, because rarely do placements fall in line with every 6th or 8th interview. And every once in a while, you can be really, really hot, meaning you set up 10 interviews and you make 5 placements, and then you can be really hot, really cold like Jim was, and arrange 35 interviews and make no placements. I told him to stay the course and continue to keep arranging interviews, and the numbers would catch up. And I believe he arranged somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or 12 interviews over the next month, and he quickly closed 7 placements in less than a month. His interview activity was the same as it was the previous 90 days. It's not like he had this new spike in activity. He didn't get these great new assignments. He just continued to arrange interviews. And he caught back up to the 6-to-1 ratio in a month. I've seen it take 2 months, even 3 months to regress back to the mean, but real world example, I've seen this happen over and over and over again. I've seen a bunch of gyms. I had a bunch of gyms on my team. I went 54 interviews early in my career before I made like 7 placements in my next 10 interviews. Over 30 years, for me in my recruiting firm, with my recruiters, with our clients that I've coached now since 2006, I've never seen this not happen. I've never seen a client arrange the interviews and not get the proper number of placements for the proper number of interviews. Tracking the right metrics is the number one key to revenue predictability. You arrange 8 interviews in a month and you have a deal blow up, you should be able to look yourself in the mirror and go, I had a great month. I'm right on target, because you are. So if you want to discover how tracking the right numbers is liberating and not punitive, especially if you have a team, how to put it in, how to install the system the right way, fill out the little form below. And on the other side, if it makes sense for us, we'll schedule a time to chat. I hope this quick tip on revenue predictability is helpful, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.